Welcome to Club E. Hi, I'm Rick Brimacombe of Brimacombe and Associates. I am your architect of business growth, and I'll work with you to unlock the potential and amplify the scale of your company. Today, we're going to be talking about messaging during crisis. I want to thank our sponsors, Irish Titan, an e-commerce and web development firm, Boulay Group, CPAs and advisors, Highland Bank, a locally owned community bank, Romaine Berg, a digital marketing agency, Minnesota Sales, a sales acceleration firm, and the Network Connect, a catalytic gateway for growing your company. Before we get started, I'd like you to subscribe and hopefully like our Club E channel. We need your help, so just take a moment. I'll wait for you. This way we'll know what kind of content you want. It'll help us deliver better information to you, as well as let you know when we're going live. I'd like to introduce today's speaker, David Mann. Welcome, David.
Hello there, Rick. Good to be here.
And good to have you back. David spoke with us a little while ago, and given that what he has to say is so relevant at this moment in time, we thought we'd have him back. So again, welcome, David. David's contact information is in the comments field, and so you can see how to get a hold of David. So David, tell us a little bit about yourself, your firm, and the various activities that you're up to.
Well, my firm is Simple Message, which is all about getting clarity around the messaging for your company, whatever size and for whatever reason. I'm all about reaching the audience, clarifying the story, aligning the messaging and the marketing so that you can reach the best clients. So lately, I've been doing basically all of that like I would have done before any of this came along. But so much more of it is in the virtual platform. So that kind of adds another layer of messaging and clarity and storytelling and everything that needs to go along with that, which we can get into a little bit later on.
Okay, great. Well, again, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get to our event, let's talk about what you, our audience, can receive for your participation. Again, put your questions in the comment field. Today's hashtag ties in with David's business, hashtag simple message. 3 winners are going to receive a phone or Zoom call consultation to work through some piece of marketing literature that they'd like to go through with David. Again, hashtag simple message, and 3 winners will be chosen. Hey, David, one of the things that you're up to is the Breakthrough Hub. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Breakthrough Hub, which we're both in. That is Todd Eberhardt put together a bunch of consultants and specialists in various parts of growing businesses and helping businesses out right when the pandemic looked like it was really going to be something that was going to impact business severely. And he got us together. And so I jumped right in there because I thought, yeah, now more than ever is a time for clear messaging. And you know, it's a right out of the gate, we wanted to make sure that this was honestly and truly a free service. It's not for every business, but it's for the ones who come to us that seem like they're a good fit. We do offer it all, for no cost and without some ulterior motive. Right away I was sort of like, what's this really about? And it's truly about what it, appears to be about. And that's why I like it.
All right. Hey, when you were first approached by the Breakthrough Hub, what caught your attention and why did you decide to get involved?
Well, I looked at the other people on the list. I mean, Todd reached out to, right now I think we have 12. I think originally there was something like 40 or so that he reached, 30 or something so that he reached out to. And I just looked at the list of people and I thought, this is really a group of people that I would like to be a part of. I felt, really honored to be asked. So I thought, yeah, if I can rise to the occasion, then I want to be with these people.
So talk a little bit about the work that you've done so far with the Breakthrough Hub.
Well, a lot of what I've done actually with the Breakthrough Hub is to help to make it into something. It wasn't originally called the Breakthrough Hub. And if you remember, as we were talking about what should it be and how should, it was really starting from scratch. And I started to see that it was as if we were all circling around a central kind of, mission. And I thought it's something like the hub on a bike wheel. And so I started using that word in our conversations, which kind of became what everybody was using. And then I think it was you or someone that added something having to do with breakthrough from some other consulting group. And we said, oh, let's put those two together. So that and some other messaging for Breakthrough Hub is what I've done. I shot a video that went all over the place a couple weeks ago that was just me sitting right about here, talking about what it is to promote it. And it got viewed like, I don't know, a couple thousand times or something, which to me just blows my mind, So I've done quite a bit of that. And then we did have one client that I was involved in, client in a sense, and the South Side, and they needed some, they were putting together a sort of a card that went, a mailer, and they sent the one that they had. And I thought, this isn't really saying much, and so what I would ordinarily do with a business, whether it was during the pandemic or not, helped clear up the messaging, and in a really short amount of time, sent it back to them as a template. I said, so you could do something like this. And then they just ended up printing it up and using it. So that was good.
Yeah, well, it's great to add value. And as you said, it's pro bono. And again, the name is Breakthrough Hub. Last question on that before we get to messaging during a crisis. Was there anything surprising or unexpected that came up regarding the Breakthrough Hub efforts that you've been doing?
Well, I think for me, a couple of things. I mean, I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised to see how many other people in the consulting, space were eager, not only just willing, but eager to just give their services, because we all felt like we've gotten so much from the business community. If we can be of any help, that was great. So I felt that was really gratifying to discover that. And another thing that was sort of unexpected for me is that, I'm a bit shy about saying that, like, prior to this period that we're in now, I did just about every bit of my own marketing of myself or just connecting with people in the business community. I did it all in person, speaking at everything all the time, and was sort of like all of us forced, or, that option went away to do anything live. And so Breakthrough Hub helped me actually to just sit down and figure out how to have more of an online presence. By doing it for them, it ended up, or for us, in that capacity, it ended up making me kind of take a look at it and go, well, how could I better use a social media platform, which now in just a matter of a month or so, I've gotten much more active on, I'm really happy about that.
Which then helps you with all of your clients, not just your own business. So that's good to know how that's worked. All right. So as we shift gears towards messaging during a crisis, what do you think it's important for businesses to do right now with their message?
Well, there's a lot, I would say. I think that the most important thing to remember is to keep it honest. And keep it clear, as I would say it at all times. But right now, it's really got to be honest. And I think that very quickly, businesses started to pick up on the sort of the language of the crisis. We have to pivot, and it's we want to help you through this difficult time and all that stuff. And I think that moment was here and kind of passed. And now we're in the other side of that language. We're certainly not on the other side of the pandemic, but we're on the other side of the language, which I think is directly all about helping people through the crisis. And I think very early, we all can probably attest to the fact that very early we started to say, well, are you really wanting to help me? Or are you using that language to get my business, And I think that's what's really important. You gotta say, I want to help you with a particular aspect of your business, is what it needs. That's what the language basically needs to do, is to say, I've thought about what you, my clients, are probably dealing with right now. And rather than just throw out a blanket like, how can I help? The messaging has to say, I bet you have this problem. Here's something I have to offer that problem.
And then
that's the first thing.
And then you also mentioned all the Zoom meetings going on. What are some of the tips for using the virtual platforms better?
Well, what I've been telling everybody that I've been working with is, again, keep keep on top of the fact that this is no longer a new thing. So when it was a new thing, we all kind of forgave everybody looking terrible in their Zoom meetings and not knowing how to use it and having the camera pointed the wrong direction and the sound is bad and, lighting is awful. We all kind of forgave that, but now it's getting to be like, well, if you're still doing it badly, it's sort of on you. You got to figure out how to frame like where I'm sitting right now, frame yourself in the center of the frame, not, where it's like this. Get your back. This is my home, but I made sure that the background was not distracting. Like over there, right there's my fridge. I had a bunch of, kids magnet stuff on there and, whatever. And it just looked sloppy. So I intentionally moved it off the fridge. I'm revealing to you here. So, stuff like that can really help make you just look more professional. I think too, it's, think about just investing. It's really not that much money to invest in some kind of ring light or big, sort of professional like lights. So that like right now I'm using one of those instead of having my face in the dark. I think, I've talked about this quite a bit. I can't remember who, I might've said it on our last webcast, but it's just getting to be something where I'm going, it's not that really that hard to do well. And then on the another aspect of it, besides the way it looks, is keeping in mind that people have a different attention span for this. It's really difficult it's hard enough to listen to a lot of people speak live for an hour or longer. But when it's this way, it's double hard to listen to somebody kind of like not have their stuff together and kind of be meandering through stuff and not be on point and mumbling and whatever else. I mean, it's just really difficult. So you got to prepare. You have to prepare for every meeting if it's important,
And speaking of getting prepared and what's going on now, so a reminder to everybody to submit your questions. We've already had several questions, David. Everybody's interested in getting your insights on what's going on. So put your questions into the comments field. And again, hashtag simple message. We will pick 3 participants to spend some time with David via phone or Zoom to go through some of their marketing literature. And the first question from Eric, longtime listener. David, this ties into the COVID conversation. Do you believe that the message today has changed or should change with the pandemic versus pre-COVID era?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I think that we need to be speaking to the time. We always need to be speaking to the customers where they're really at. And I think that the thing that messaging always seems to get wrong, whether it's the COVID time or not, is we are talking about ourselves rather than speaking to the customer. Instead of speaking about ourselves, we need to think there's a customer, there's a client who's going through something that we're all sharing right now. How can you arrange what you say to speak to what they might be going through right now? So as I said a minute ago, the language, we need to get past directly referencing COVID and pivoting and pandemic and all that stuff, because we've done that now. But I think that the messaging needs to change in the sense that it's more important than ever to be clear, and also more important than ever to speak to the emotions of the client. That part is always important, but a lot of times it's kind of sidelined and left off, and who cares? But you got to speak to the fact that they're feeling something, they're going through something. And it really isn't that hard to imagine, because we're all going through it together. So that's in those subtler ways, I think the messaging does need to shift.
Okay, again, lots of questions here today. So everybody wants to hear from you, David. So that's good. From Katie, the quantity of digital messages from businesses is overwhelming and crowded given all that's going on. How can a business best stand out in this environment?
The same way that they can stand out at any other time, which is to speak your message clearly, simply, and in client-centered terms. If you're putting up another ad that says, here's what we do, and here are our services, then just take it down and think again. Do something that you have to imagine. I usually do, when I work with people, I do a whole kind of session on what is your customer's story? What are they trying to achieve that you can help them achieve? And at first that message is really huge and cumbersome and unwieldy, but you can get it down to just a very small one. And that's the first thing, is being able to speak in language that instantly they recognize as, that's my problem. Yeah, you're speaking my language. That's what I'm dealing with. And then how else to cut through? Well, if you're going to do something like using videos, which I've now been doing a little bit, I'm still working on the lighting, but using video posts, be regular about it and make them sort of unique. I mean, I've chosen on mine to make mine about, excuse me, using a handwritten whiteboard, because I thought, well, the analog look of that, the non-digital look of that is actually different enough now that it can maybe stand out. So, that's one thing I've done, is you got to think like, what's going to make people go, huh, what's that? In the midst of all of this barrage of stuff, it cannot look like an ad. It has to look like you are there to help them with something, and you're going to help them with something in 2 minutes, not 20 minutes, So that's an answer to that, I guess.
Absolutely. And a little hat tip to you from Linda. Nobody tells a story better than David. Talk a little bit about how you can use language, about how to using the language to reach your audience. So specific to using language to reach your audience.
Well, okay. In addition to what I've said already here about speaking in their customer-centered, talking about them, the other main things, and this would apply whether it's now or any other time, is that technical language that is specific to your industry only, you want to probably stay away from, unless you're just willing to only speak to the handful of people that understand that language. So that seems kind of obvious. Also, there's a collection of sort of business speak words that people are always using that kind of mean nothing, and putting ism after stuff or whatever. I mean, just like what I usually tell the people that I work with, especially lawyers, because I work with a lot of lawyers, it's probably easier to come up with something that is cumbersome and complicated than it is to come up with something that is clear and simple. And so usually what I say in terms of language is, write it out the way that feels most comfortable to you first, but don't post that. Take a look at that, read it to somebody else, and say, do you know what I'm talking about? And generally people are going to be like, especially if they're not in your industry, they're going to go, no, I caught some of it. I don't know. That, it sounds like what everybody else is saying. Then you go back and you look at what you wrote and you go, now how can I say that more simply? And generally it's this: if you take the thing you wrote out to use as your message, and that you carefully crafted, and you read it to somebody, they're going to go, no. And then they're going to say, what are you trying to say? And then you're going to go, blah, blah, blah. And you're just going to say something that's just effortless. And that's probably what you should write down. It's counterintuitive, because we like to be correct, and we like to use language that's like everybody else's language, so that we know that we're not going to be, weird. But the thing is that if you're going to stand out, you're going to have to risk being a little bit off. You're going to have to take that risk, and then chances are you're going to hit the bullseye. So,
any other kind of typical mistakes that companies are making? I know you've mentioned a couple, but any other typical ones?
You mean at this particular moment?
Yeah. Or I guess maybe even in general, maybe just a broader umbrella thing. What are typical mistakes companies make when they're messaging?
Well, one of the biggest broad kind of things that was a real awakening or eye opener for me is Seth Godin's idea of the upside down funnel, which, if you're not familiar with it, we all think of a sales funnel as looking like a funnel where it has a wide top end and a small bottom end. So cast the net out to as many as possible, and then we whittle it down to the 2 or 3 that actually come out the other end as customers. And his idea, and I'm completely just subscribed to this idea, is flip the funnel upside down. Get your focus as narrow and specific as possible. Speak to just, like I just said this thing about industry speak, stay, you don't want to speak in jargon that excludes people. But what you want to do is you want to figure out who exactly is best served by my product or service. And then especially now with this like noisy LinkedIn time, orient your messaging to who you believe is the best customer for you. And you'll get more of them than you think. And then they will tell 2 people who will tell 2 people. And your funnel begins to go this way. And at the end, you have only the people that are best served by your service. It probably takes a little more time, but maybe not. The thing that I think everyone is always making a mistake on in messaging is this wide net casting thing. It costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. It keeps everybody busy for sure. So you feel like you're really doing something. You're doing a lot of counting and metrics and all that stuff. But are you really producing paying customers out of it is the question you have to ask yourself. So that's a general answer to that.
Well, right on cue, you brought up LinkedIn, and no, I didn't pay you to do it that way to feed into a script. This is actually a question from our audience. And as far as hashtag goes, it's simple message reminder to put in your questions as well as get in the drawing for a session with David to go through some of your marketing materials. So Stephen asks, what's the most effective way to use digital messaging for connections, introductions, and the hope for referrals with LinkedIn contacts and prospects?
The most effective way to do that. Well, I'm not exactly a social media expert, as I said a minute ago, in terms of any kind of organized strategy to that. But what I guess the way I can answer that is to say, there is a thing that people have been doing for a while now, which is to kind of go through their contacts and find people that they think they might, they might be able to get in their world somehow. And they will say, hey, I was looking at your profile and it seems like we have a lot in common. And I would like you to accept my invitation and then maybe have coffee. In my opinion, that's a really weak and thinly veiled kind of a message. That's just saying, I just want to expand my network and you seem fine. And I mean, you know what I mean? The subtext of that is like, I'm just trying to build my business and that's all it is. So I would be very careful with that. Like someone today, I just got one of these today from some guy in Michigan, actually, on my LinkedIn, that watched my video that I posted last week. And I got one I think is a really good example. He clearly had watched the whole thing and he had something to say about the whole thing that was really on point and really insightful and complimentary, but not general. He said, this particular thing you did is very interesting and I'd like to talk to you about that. Well, now and I've never heard of this guy before, but I'm like, that's somebody I'm going to respond to because he took the time to actually figure out what I was doing and had something to say about it that was real, not just let's have coffee. So, which we can't do anymore anyway, but that's what I would say about generally is, again, be honest and be thorough and don't try to become a rock star. Just get to the handful of people that you actually can connect with.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. I get a lot of those same outreach emails through LinkedIn as well. So good point. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Hey, reminder to everybody, subscribe and like our Club E channel. Get updated on what's going on and when our next events are. All right. So Dave, it's kind of interesting, the work that you do. How did you get into it?
Well, I was, for the first 2 decades of my professional life, did nothing but theater. So 2 degrees in theater, taught theater in a high school, and then did professional theater for at least 10, 15 years. And I got into this because there's a whole story behind it having to do with Hartford Life Insurance, which I've told everybody for years, which I won't go into, but I saw that there was a great big huge crossover between what we in theater study all the time and what the business community desperately needs, which is a way to connect to their audience using words and using kind of presence and creating a feeling in the moment, which is all things that we do in theater. So that I went, and I kind of started to follow that thread. And it was originally stuff like communication skills and presentation skills and stuff that was more closely related to theater. And as I went through it, I kept hearing this thing, everybody's story. Everybody's talking about story. And I went, okay, story is my thing. Yeah. And then I thought, but if I go out there as story guy, I'm just like the other 900 story guys. So I got even more, this is that upside down funnel thing. I got even more specific and went, let's just talk message, just message. Because the message can be a story. It can also be your physical presence. It can be online. It can be live. It's a wide open idea with a very narrow sort of singular focus to it. So that's how that's the last, 20 years of my life encapsulated in about a minute and a half.
Well, it is a fascinating journey that you've been on. And I know that you are good at what you do because you and I have interacted on several projects, some of them fairly complicated that we've worked through. So thanks for the work that you've done with me and all the work that you've done with the many companies that you've helped. So question, has anything surprising come to you or happened to your business during the time period that we've been going through with the COVID and the social unrest and just all the turmoil?
Well, I would say the most the thing that's been most surprising really is how much benefit there has been to taking a step back. We have this mindset that we have to always be going forward and get bigger and broader and huger and more powerful, which is an understandable impulse, especially in business. But I'd been doing that for so long, I forgot how much it was costing me on a personal level, to always be in that forward driving mode all the time. I could see some threads starting to show, personally, but I hadn't paid enough attention to them. Well, this kind of shut everything down. Well, I can't go on a plane. I can't travel. A lot of gigs are falling apart. So we're all depressed for a while, but I'm sitting here in my living room looking out my window at the garden that my 10-year-old wanted to plant. So we tore up part of the front yard and put a garden in the front. I never would have done that before. I never would have had the time, So in a way, getting away from things more regularly, because there's just been all this time, has made when I am working twice as productive. It's just bizarre. Like, it's so counter. You'd think, why would that work that way? But it does. So I've been more productive in the last 2 months than I've been in a long time without feeling exhausted all the time. So that's been surprising.
Well, that's good, because you and I have been working on a project that you've been helpful on. So
thank you.
I appreciate that gardening and how it's helped you with your business. I have been a recipient of the benefits. So thank you.
Good.
Hey, reminder to everybody, #SimpleMessage, get in the drawing for David's assessment and work with you on some marketing materials. Also a reminder to subscribe and like our channel. And David's contact information is in the comments field as well if you'd like to reach out to him directly. Okay, David, if you kind of think through the conversation we've had here, different things that you've said, some tips on what to do, some pointers towards things maybe that haven't worked for some companies. If you were trying to leave the audience with one main takeaway, what would it be?
Probably where I started, which is to keep your message honest, simple, and clear. There's a lot more that it takes to do that than it sounds like there is, but your business is very specific and unique and essential. It totally is. Don't make it sound like it's everybody else's business. Be yourself, be yours, be simple, clear, and communicate that, and people will respond.
Great. All right, here's a little bit off the typical question that you might get asked, and Lucas, my associate and our producer here, this is a question that he loves, given that he's relatively early in his career. And the question is, what's an important lesson that you've learned over your career that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Wow. I think that it's stuff I've kind of said already, which is don't try to be a rock star. That's probably, to sum it up, the I've had the good fortune of being pretty well known in the theater community for a long time. So I got a lot of that kind of satisfied. But the impulse to be huge, I think, is really something that just really cripples people business wise. So, but I was doing it too, like everybody else. Um, Being satisfied with small but quality that gets to be a little bit bigger and quality, a little bit big, like that slower pace is just so what someone should have told me 20 years ago, you know?
Tortoise in the hare.
Well, in a way, yeah. Yeah. I've definitely been the hare bounding away and lots of energy and all that stuff. Sometimes energy just kind of flying in all kinds of directions and not very focused. But the past several years, I've gotten much more. Maybe it's age too, but I mean, I've gotten a lot more focused and a lot more relaxed about stuff.
A quick question, given you're in the messaging business,